Now, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this webinar on post-COVID. What will happen at work? Okay, what are we going to be facing at work? Now, my name is Jeremy. I'm from an organization called ATCEN. We are a training provider, and we do is we also do advice as well. And we have been running this webinar the last 2 weeks. It's my intention here to have these gentlemen share with you what exactly they have been doing over the last few weeks, okay, 2 weeks to be exact. How are they coping at work? How are they coping at home? And more importantly, I think for many of us here, how they think the workplace will be changing. Now, a little bit about myself first. My background, I'm actually a chartered accountant by training. I like to say by training is because I don't actually practice except for my own organization, but I do teach accountancy for my clients. I do a lot of work related to strategy. I do a lot of work related to leadership and management, right? ATCEN itself is already an 18-year-old company. And my other thing that I have is actually I have a master's in engineering business management. So one of my aims here was actually to become an engineer. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So I got myself a master's in engineering management instead. Now, we know over the last 2 weeks, a lot of things has happened. And a few days ago, there was a call for a longer extension to April the 14th. But as some of you have heard me just now, we have also heard that it could be extended all the way to the end of April. So with us here today is 3 gentlemen. They are from different parts of our Malaysian workforce, okay? All of them are in senior positions, and we are here to allow them to share with us what has been happening in their own life, at work, and more importantly, how they see the Malaysian workforce moving forward. Okay. So what I'd like to do is, gentlemen, okay, I'd like to give you a few seconds to introduce yourself, right? So, right, Peter, why don't you start with yourself, right? This is Peter. He is actually from...
Hi.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Peter, and I actually work for Marsing Group. I hate the talent management and development. So in a sense, end-to-end of talent from attractions to development, to performance, to engagements, and to successions and all. So nice meeting all of you. I will leave it to the rest because we want to keep it short.
Right, Zenas?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Jeremy. I'm Zenas from Fraser and Neef Holdings Berhad. I'm the head of human capital for corporate services. Nice to meet everybody here. So we look forward to a interesting and fruitful engagement.
Okay, good, right. Anthony.
Jeremy and everyone on the call, good to everyone. My name is Anthony Raja Devadoss, Director for the Regional Business of which supports all of our talent management solutions in the region. For help today and some good experience with everyone.
So, gentlemen, right, let's start with a few simple questions to warm up, okay? Key thing here, why don't we start with Zenas first, okay? Anthony, sound is breaking up a little bit now. You may want to just check your here. Let's start with Zenas. Zenas, why don't we start with you? I gather that FNN is not in full lockdown. You guys are actually working. So can you please just share with us a little bit what has happened over the last 2 weeks when the MCO was announced, what happened then, and what is happening now? Okay. Right.
Okay. Well, thanks for the question, Jeremy. I think for many of us, right, we're representing the company and we are also trying to understand and adapt to the government's directions. Sure, this is the first time that they are going through something like this as well. So we can't expect them to have all the answers. So the past 2 weeks, the experience has been we are complying as much as we're able to. Certain things we need more clarification. So it has become a 2 weeks of reading, getting the information and trying to comply, and at the same time going back to get more clarity over the directions from the government, whether it be from MITI or from the National Security Council. But fortunately for us, we've been playing a pretty proactive role. So on that basis, we were quite quick to get our plants running. That means all 7 plants running within the first week, the first few days after the MCO was implemented. And we also quite quickly managed to get our workers authorized to work, because I tell you, the MCO is just one. The directives are just there for enforcement, but the interpretation at the ground level was very difficult. The police, and the army, they've got different interpretation, so they will implement it in different manners. So we had to ensure that our workers managed to have as little hassle as possible. So human capital, I don't know about the rest, but I felt that with the MCO, right, human capital or human resource, we seem to be most busy in trying to get ourselves back on operations. But we've done that. We've gotten letters out, we've gotten police to endorse every single letter, and then each employee has gotten the right documentation to show the police or the army at every check area.
Okay, good. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Right, Peter, why don't we go next with you? Right, how are you, and how is Masing doing?
If you say complete lockdown and total suspension of all the works, I would say no, because there are some corporate functions still needs to take place, some things that still can operate from home. So in a nutshell, at the project sites, we have to halt it because all the it took us like probably 2 or 3 days to clear all the hazards related kind of things and cleared it out, and then after that we stopped completely. We have no choice because some of our competitors have been slapped with a fine of 50,000, if you know, it was in the news, and the other 3 other mega developer, one of them is at Bukit Bintang, was also ordered to shut down on the same day itself. So we will not take any risk in any aspects, and we comply. But having said so, life have to go on, things have to go on. Sales and marketing are probably one of the most busy alongside with the HR. And I agree with Janice that for once, HR become very, very important role. It's like the heart of the company. HR becomes so-called important because all the comms going out to everybody centered with us. And it makes us wonder out of sudden why all this while nobody appreciated us, and then for once everybody starts looking up to us for leadership. So it's key. It's going to be very, very challenging. I will agree with you, Jeremy. Earlier you were mentioning my prediction when it actually says it will take 2 weeks for the first part of the lockdown. I already envision it will last until end of April. That will be the earliest that we will get it through. But again, the numbers doesn't seems to be stacking up correctly to see that it will happen. With the government deciding, if they open up the Ramadan Bazaar as well as the other aspect is Hari Raya Balai Kampung Exodus. If that take place, we will brew up another 300 clusters across the country. So I hope the government will really reconsider what they wanted to do to curb this, because if we don't take it seriously, we will reach a stage where it will be a point of no U-turn, and then we have to seek international help. I hope that it doesn't happen, but as a matter of fact, from the HR angles, a lot of work that traditionally doesn't sit with HR become a very integral. We have become very integral part of the overall HR risk management, because especially in an organization where they don't have a clearly defined risk management, business continuity planning kind of thing, HR somewhat comes into play. And it's an exciting time if you ask me. but it's not going to be easy.
I mean, I didn't share one part of the 3 people who I spoke to this morning. The person who was interacting with the government the most was actually Dr. Michael. Dr. Michael's prediction was actually that we will only start sometime in mid-May. And when I heard that from him, my heart sank. Okay, I was expecting April, then he said May. I'm like, oh, what, May now? Okay, so, but he's the one that came up with it, but it takes to be as real as possible, based on numbers. But no, we are just making predictions. Everyone cross your fingers, hope that it does not happen, because a lot of people will be affected by it, okay? Now, already we are. Okay, Anthony, why don't we go with you, no? I mean, you do regional work. I think among all of us here, you're probably the one who flies around every single day. I mean, I send WhatsApp to you. Sometimes it takes days for you to come back on it. I know you're very busy. So why don't you give us from a perspective of Malaysia and also an overseas perspective? What are some of your clients overseas saying? Okay.
All right. Just a sound check if it's clear.
Yes, it's clear. Good.
Okay, wonderful. Just to add to Zenas and I love the way you said that HR is the heart of the. I think it's all the more now visible. The heart is very big across the companies now. So all the companies working very closely with human resources, and this become quite visible. So some thoughts from my side, I just wanted to add. Of course, I can't travel. My last trip was to Dubai. And I remember my team said, you're taking a kind of a big risk. When I came back, a week later, MCO started, right? So I feel that what we used to do, person-to-person meeting, tremendously changed. So the one-to-one, now it's shifted to approach. So people are, I'm not saying all are not ready for it. Are quite ready, because statistics says we have 2 every Malaysian, I think, almost. So the thing is, the now shifted in, and we felt that. And how we saw it in our company was quickly BCP was initiated, planning. A task force was set up. From home initiative was done. For a company which is connected across the country, to shift that face-to-face meeting was a big, and I do remember Anthony, the conversations.
Anthony,
yeah.
Can I make a suggestion? Can you switch off your video, because your voice is breaking up? So switch off your video, at least that will give us audio. Will that be okay?
Yes, I've switched off the.
Okay, good, better.
Better?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to highlight is that we are connecting with. Companies that we are connecting with. Just hit. And the ones who are going through challenges right now. Okay? And large workers are much better prepared as at the moment.
Yeah,
do let me know if you.
Yes, it's still breaking up, Anthony. It's still breaking up.
All right. So I'm going to, hoping that the line can continue.
Okay.
How trusting their leaders now.
Yes.
This is the last point of trust as a nation. Where I'm working, I see you and I know you're working. There's a difference in the shift that's happening. It's a huge learning experience, or I would call it the readiness to adapt to the digital of what's happening, and the ready trust of working away from office.
Okay. Right. So Anthony is sharing with us a few things. I think what he says is that there is going to be a huge shift in terms of trust factor here, right? First thing, do you trust your leadership in this situation? Does your leadership trust you in this situation? Because a lot of people are working offline or away from the eyes. Most companies are not used to that. Most leaders, I believe, are not used to that, especially for such a long period of time. Whatever BCP we have, I'm quite sure it was not something that we saw the way it happened, okay? And also the other thing that he mentioned was digital, right? Whether we are digital ready. Now, this is something that we will come to in the next few moments. But before that, what I want to do is just very quickly share a poll. Why I want to share a poll is because I want to find out exactly who is in here, right? And what are you all looking for? So that this poll has actually 3 questions. The first question I'm putting up is when it's lifted, when the company and when the MCO is lifted, what will happen when we go back to the office? Please answer as honestly and truthfully as possible. What kind of organization are you representing currently? One that's in shutdown, one in shutdown, total shutdown, nothing is happening, or shutdown partially, or you're operating as per part of the essential service, and what is your position in the company, okay? So I'm launching the poll now. Please take a quick few seconds to fill in your answers, okay? Everyone, you should see the poll now. If you see the poll, can you please let me know? Do you see the poll? Yes, no?
Not yet, Mr. Jeremy.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully it's coming on. I've already launched it. Wow, it's also slow on my side. So, as we are launching the poll, I'm not sure why it's taking its time. I would also like to ask all 3 of you, any of you can answer this. How is your management team working at the moment? How are they working? What is the system of working like? Because I'm quite sure a lot of people here would like to hear that. Okay. Dinesh, why don't we start with you since in operation?
Okay.
All right. Started. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good question. Because there was also a question posed by one of the participants on if the MCO itself is extended, how does HR play its role to advise and then to support the company or the company owner with if MCO is continued. So I'll combine these 2 together.
Okay.
For everyone's knowledge, right? I think it's very important, and that's what we're doing now. Is every day the management team gets together. So you must have the leader of the organization there. And if it is the business owner, then the business owner has to be there. So for us, every 9:30, we have a 1-hour session with all the management team involved and all the various stakeholders that needs to be in. And this is, of course, handled by risk management team. So HC or HR can play this role. You basically have someone that keeps track of all the necessary topics or issues that's been raised. So one day to another day, right, you need to close it and keep everyone abreast in terms of the new information or guidelines coming from NSC or from MITI and whatnot. And then you take those and then have a quick discussion. Even ideas that's coming from relevant departments, like for instance, human capital, we can also raise it up there to get alignment with everybody and get approval to have it done. So for F&M, we've been doing this since day 1 of the MCO. We've been actually we started this even before that, but when MCO happened, we did it virtually. So this is a very important platform. It's done every single day. So if you are HR and then you're supporting the business owner, or if the management team is in this sort of platform and you are there as a representative, right? Your ideas, issues, and anything that you want to put on can get alignment and get the approval quite quickly. Then you can implement it. So I would suggest that that is something that everyone takes note of. And this is what we've been doing, Jeremy.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. So it's a meeting. I said it's a daily meeting, 9:30.
It is a daily meeting for 1 hour, yeah.
1 hour. I mean, do you all meet daily on other days? Normal business as usual, do you all meet daily or it's only now?
As previously, actually, honestly speaking, previously, right, this is one of the change in the work. Previously, when we had meetings, it was so difficult to get everybody together because some of them will have their own calendar block, and then you need to find another window. So it's much harder. But I think with this virtual meetings, seems as if everybody can get represented. They're able to join. So this is something that's changed, which I guess it is good. So make use of it, maximize it.
Okay. Right. And of course, the other thing you mentioned that all the agenda is taken care of by the business risk management team. So they are,
yeah, you need to have somebody central that keeps track of all the issues that arise and follow through lah, so that you have somebody that will always keep you reminded of what you're supposed to do and when, and come up with a solution and implement lah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Right. Before I go and ask Peter to share, I just want to get the poll up and running. I think. Right. So some of you saw the poll just now. It should. Okay, everyone. Please fill it up. What you need to do is just click on whatever you want to answer. Click quickly so that we can get it done. No one has answered anything at the moment. Please do that. Right. I've relaunched the poll. Okay, one person has said something. Okay, one business as usual. Right. There's 3 questions here. Right. Carry operating part, business owners. Okay, good. One person. The rest of you, please start clicking. Okay. We need to at least understand where everyone is coming from. Right. Total shutdown, nothing much is happening. Okay. Business as usual, good. So about 62% says most likely you'll be back business as usual, no big effect here. Salary and benefit cuts 11%. Right, it's not ended yet, please. Okay. Click if you want to, at least to give us a rough idea who is in the room. Okay. Now, and what you want. Now, let's go. Peter, okay, what about yourself? Key, one of the lifeblood of the Malaysian economy, property development, all related. So can you please, and what are bigger companies as well, Martin? So what can you tell us? How is your senior management working at the moment?
Okay, it will be a lie if I say that we were all ready for this. So we got to adapt, but the fact is that the property sector has been going on a downhill trends over the last 3 years. So business continuity has always been part and parcel of work in progress. So in a nutshell, in fact, we have become a lot more leaner compared to 3 years ago. So hence we are able to shoulder this through. But of course, if I say that this continue on for another 6 more months, will we be able to survive? I think this year we will get into big cash flow kind of situations. But thank goodness there are some initiatives from the government. There are many other things that they have been doing. So that help us to weather this through for a little while. The challenge is that with this, as a result, the impact will be the overall sentiment will be challenged. Now, coming back to echo what Zenas was saying, organization as a leaders, which is actually founded by Tan Sri. Tan Sri has been a focal point of taking control, making key decisions, and a lot of meetings taking place. And in fact, some of the heads has been saying, now I've had more meetings than before. But virtual meetings, and it's like sometimes it's a meeting marathon from one meeting to the next meeting because typically the management meeting take place usually is after 10 o'clock. So early part of the day between 8:30 9 o'clock, a lot of teams huddle take place where you rally around the team that a smaller team. So each of the bite-sized team, you need to work along with that, and then updates, and then at the management meeting you are able to provide the updates and the progress, what are things happening. Of course, on another hand, there is one challenge that we have is the site are basically all shut. So the challenge is how long would this situation prolong. So coming back to the role on HR, I would actually use three things to anchor what HR needs to do. First, we need to address the mindset. So the mindset is we need to address that we need to be open. We need to be able to, as an employee, we need to demonstrate the trustworthiness. But from the employer, we need to trust the employees. And a lot of agility needs to be in place. The mindset of nothing happened, nothing was cast in the ironstone. Whatever decision made yesterday may no longer be relevant because there is new information arise, and hence we need to be very agile. So employee need to also understand, and employer need to also understand both so that it takes two to tango to make things happen. So that's one of the things about mindset. The second part is actually talking about the skill sets. So skill set is like, for instance, I'll focus on one job family, which is the role that we play as in a HR. Out of blue moon, that HR become one of the focal point of comms. In the past, it's always like, communications will probably handled by, typical brand communication kind of department. But with this, challenges and the crisis coming in, HR become a focal point of communications. And then, other skill sets like, we need to start rethinking about our employees' tech savviness. We also, as a leaders, as an employee, we also need to start be more having this empathy. So empathy will take us a long way. You start understanding why people may not be 100% productive compared to at the workplace because of young mothers where you have you got to tend to the a couple of months or a year-old baby at home. Disturbance may always be there. So we need to be able to empathize on that thing. So the last part on the third one is really looking at the tool sets. So I have mindset, skill sets, and the last one is tool set. Tool sets is really the organization need to look at what are the tools that we need to make so that work from home become a lot more easy. So moving forward, after this, you will see a lot of organizations probably adopt this, what we call FWA, flexi work arrangement from home, from different locations. And thank goodness we have this technology that enable us, Microsoft Teams, we have Zooms, we have, Facebook Live, we have YouTube and multiple, there are easily 50 of them around. So these are the tools that enable us to be able to continue this kind of business operations. So in a nutshell, as a result of all this, I think in the next after this crisis is over, a few things I will envision this will happen. Organization will start planning on the finance aspect better.
Peter, why don't we keep that? I will definitely back to you on that because.
All right, thanks.
So let's do this. We are just going to discuss on what is happening now, and then after this question, definitely it's all about the future, right? I think some people here are very interested to know what's happening at the moment. So Anthony, what about your side? Anthony, are you with?
Jeremy?
Okay, good.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Switch off all of the apps so to make sure that the line is clear.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully it's clear now. You can still hear me?
Yes, it is.
All right, wonderful. So I'll keep short sentences. Digital readiness, I just want to emphasize that.
What's happening now? What's happening now? How is senior manager? How your team? Because you have a big team across the whole Asia Pacific or most of Asia anyway.
Okay. So number one,
your team communicating.
Number one. So we are connected and we are regularized our connection once a week. So once a week.
Okay.
Connects. We make sure that everyone has an opportunity to once.
Okay.
So that everyone gets an input from each other. This is a good way to stay engaged. So if you have Zoom or if you have any other system, I think Zoom is available for 40 minutes for free. You can use it and we are using it. And we are also using Teams, Microsoft Teams, which is a very easily available toolkit, which can connect to any within the organization and outside the organization. So that's one. Number two, when we are connecting, we are also need to make sure that the organization is sensitive to the employees at home. Because they are making the shift of being with family. It's not the same of sitting at office. So adjusting to their time a little bit and giving that flexibility to learn and adjust with trust is the second point. And the third one is as leadership works together, while we are connecting via WhatsApp and other point of view, we continue to make sure that we are staying connected with the team members with updates and sharing. I want to warn here, not because we are bombarded with information in every time, in every place, and also to be careful about what we call as real information and unreal information.
Okay.
Yes.
Real information.
So as leaders, I think it's important for us to make sure that we're committed to only sharing what is true and not fake. These are three things I just want to make sure I share with this, and I hope I'm audible.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, right, gentlemen. What we'll do is just share the polling. Right, I'm ending the polling now. We're going to share whatever has happened. Quite a few of you have actually replied to the polling. Actually, about 71%. It's just rendering it at the moment. Okay. Then I'll share it in the moment it gets. Okay. I'm sharing the results now. Hopefully you can see it. Can you all see the results? Okay. Can you all see the results? Yes?
Not yet.
Okay, good. So as you can see, good thing, about 49% of people say once everything is lifted, it will be going back to business as usual. Okay, that's good, right? 25% expect there to be some kind of a salary or benefit cut. 17% say does not apply. Only 2 of them, right, are very unfortunate here or have already been made unemployed. Okay, now, good thing is that only 7% of them are saying that we are down to nothing is happening much, total shutdown. Okay, 28% says shut down but working from home but not productive. That means you still need to tweak what you need to tweak. Okay, 39% says it's productive, which is good, right? And 26% they're operating as part of essential services. Now, 29% of you are business owners, right? 9% is 9% C-level, 21% senior, 22% mid-management, and 21% junior management. Okay, right, gentlemen, so I think that is roughly the result that we have out of about 72% of the people who responded. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now. Before we move forward, I just want to ask a few questions very quickly from the chat that's happening. Okay, I'm so used to touching my computer screen that I keep on touching my TV screen. Okay, so what's happening here is this. This I think is more for Peter. Peter, if you can answer this for us, it'd be good. I just want to make sure some of these questions are answered. Richard Jacob asked, how are you dealing with the workers on the project site? There is a huge, big need in terms of human needs down there. Right? All these people are normally sitting wherever they are sitting, and a lot of them are foreigners as well. Okay. And the other question is, of course, someone with the tag name of Huawei P10 said that construction line totally cannot do anything at the moment. So what are you doing with some of the people that are sitting at home doing nothing because their job is to go out and do work?
I actually have replied to them personally.
Okay, good.
All this, yeah, but I will just share here because I think every other that's when the section become more lively. In a nutshell, as much as possible, we support our contractors because we are a property developer. We don't construct, so the contractor actually are the outsourced part of it. So the payroll sits with them. But nevertheless, what we do is we make sure that our payment to the contractor are prompt enough so that they can sustain it through this period of time. So these are some of the things that we do. Hopefully that they will not get into situation where they run into trouble in terms of cash flow. Yeah, that's basically at best that we could do.
Gentlemen, again, I'm just going to put someone here, Zuliana Wagimin. Right? She says she is a training manager, right, with PhD, Pelabuhan Hartanah Berhad. Okay, what can she do to keep their training unit alive at this moment? So any of you, are you doing anything with the training unit at this moment? Any training happening or nothing is happening?
Yeah,
it's happening.
Jeremy.
Yes, go ahead. Linus, you're live?
Okay. I am. So I just want to share with Juliana, and I think in some ways also answering John's question. John was saying that companies now they will be looking at cost cutting, and training potentially can be one big area. You are right. Both of you are right in the sense that even for FNN, we see when the poll came through that it's business as usual after MCO. Yes and no, because I think every organization, even those who are operating partially, like example for us in essential goods, we would have lost out on our sales revenue target. Yeah. So in this case, then PB becomes pretty important. So for those of us who are in HC here or business owners, of course, you want to protect your profit. So in this case, the things that you can potentially start doing now is start looking into all your operating expenses and determine which are the ones that you can cut. Training obviously will be cut. Yeah, there's no two way about it. Why? Because with MCO, there's not going to be any training. But to answer Zuliana's question, right? Yes, we are not having any physical training, but the team now is also embarking on looking through e-learnings. Last night we had a small discussion even with Jeremy. There is a lot of free e-learnings modules that's available. So you can still keep training department active and engaging the employees by going through LinkedIn, going through HRDF, determining what programs are available for free. Link it with your TNA. Now, I know a lot of us, our TNA, sometimes we take a long time to extract data from there. Now is a good time for you to be very detailed and exact about your TNA and try to link that with the programs which are out there. Mm-hmm. Another point that FNN is doing, right, and I think other companies, training departments can follow is, if you have a training manager and you've got courses that's running in-house, it could be simple technical training programs like Excel or finance for non-finance manager. Or example, in FNN, we have our global values for our new joiners. You can get your training manager to still be very relevant by doing the content itself through virtual and then running those courses for your new hires. So training department doesn't become invisible just because there's an MCO. You can consider these things to still remain relevant and continue adding value to the organization. Yeah.
Anthony, I'm quite sure.
That's mine, Jeremy.
Yes. Anthony?
Sure. Thanks, Jeremy. I think I will echo Zenas what he said. What we, and I want to give a practical advice. What we did was we took training providers or experienced leaders in our company to form an internal training group who will work with the manager. So we selected, we call it the Asia Training Network within our group across the multiple companies. So we identified those managers who can contribute as trainers, and formed a group who will work with the training manager. And I think, Dennis is also shaking his head, because we had to do that was because we know that it's going to be cut. The budget is going to be cut right away, given a current scenario. So instead of us getting stuck in that, we made sure that all of the we listed the programs, we asked who are the managers who can support, and then they came forward to do it. Secondly, we compiled and curated a list of free programs. I'm repeating, a list of free programs available. During COVID, there's a lot of programs. I'm not saying don't get distracted with it. There are some good programs from Harvard, from a couple of institutions that we have. Yesterday, I was speaking to Jeremy and Peter and Zenas. I will, after this, send a list of programs curated by MDEC, so to the benefit of all those who attended the call, so that you can now enjoy those free programs, which is curated by them to use for your benefit. And finally, I echo the idea of digital or virtual training. To make it more relevant, I think number 3 is very important. Otherwise, you will go invisible. You will need to be more and more present right now. Now is the time. As compared to any others, like HR is the heart, I think training is, I would say, the mind of the process. We have to execute it correctly.
Thank you very much. Now, there's a question here which I really want to address before I move on the future. I think this is a relevant question, but I'm going to give it to Anthony. And please feel free to come from any perspective, right? Why? Because I don't want to put Peter and Dennis on the spot here, because it can be very sensitive. But why I'm giving it to Anthony is because this question is related to downsizing, retrenchment, and VSS. Anthony, you deal a lot with clients, okay? Have any of your clients here or overseas started talking about downsizing, retrenchment, VSS? This question was asked by Richard Baker. Okay, do you mind answering this question?
Okay, thanks, Jeremy, and to Richard for asking this question. I'm going to be very point blank. Yes, every single company that we are talking to have asked us, what is the approach that we need to be prepared for to ensure during COVID and post-COVID in terms of restructuring our teams. And I don't want to paint a grim picture, but the fact is more important for everyone on the call to be prepared for this scenario rather than come to a scenario where you need to make a change, right? So the first part is multinationals generally have a proper plan for career transition and outplacement. Large companies across the board, I don't want to name the industries, and like what you said, we don't want to put people on the spot, but across the industry already expressed their interest to restructure certain divisions or departments given the impact. And number three, they are also looking at how to make sure can we have alternative approaches. So I'm going to share some thoughts around this. Number one, before you approach restructuring, outplacement, retrenchment, VSS, MSS, whatever you want to call it, I would ask you to ensure you consider redeployment first. Now, this is a first step approach within the organization because some roles or some positions or some businesses may be very deeply affected due to the COVID-19 situation, and it's going to prolong. So, not be able to run. For example, transport back from one location to the other. Yes. Certain things that is also happening is not part of the essential list or non-essential list. All right. The point is, we don't want to use that to address the issue, but be prepared is what we are asking you to. So conversations is redeploy first, and then at the last or the later point, and I think Peter is right in the comments I'm speaking, is to make sure that we look at that as an approach at the very end of exhausting everything, right? So the idea is you cannot rule out. Jeremy, we can't rule out. We have to make sure we are prepared because business leaders and companies are already asking everyone to be prepared for this exercise. So while I say redeploy, I am also asking to reskill and upskill. Reskill and upskill is important because some of those people who may be displaced due to the business decision the company is going to take can be another role within the same business. For example, a lot more gig workers have now come into play. And I understand Malaysia has got about 1.5 million gig workers. So imagine if you were to utilize this, at least you don't let go the employment completely for the person through the outplacement, but you also want to make sure that the person gets a re-employment through some channels. Re-employment, another opportunity, a business opportunity through a gig worker can be considered before you go into MSS, VSS or retrenchment exercise, right? And however exercise you take, three things it's important. In all the clients that we have worked with and deployed career management, career transition, we have always said do it with care, respect, and dignity. Now, at this point of time, companies need to be also very, very tight, cash tight, I understand, but it's also important to ensure that the human part of this exercise must be done as much as the business part is meant.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm not going to put the other two in the spot because if they say anything, it will be from their own organization. But what I'm going to say is that I'm going to move forward to the future, okay? Because one of the key reasons why all of us are here today, right, is to understand what do you see as the future after the MCO is lifted. How do you think workplace will change, right? Even before this, since last year, the government had been talking about IR 4.0, you've been pushing for digitalization because we all know it's coming. One of the key subjects I do with a lot of people these days is incorporating IR 4.0 and Industry 4.0 into a lot of my programs. As a matter of fact, 2 months before this, I actually ran a IR, Industry Revolution I 4.0 program for 15 so-called CEOs of entities. Okay, so my question to you is this. Okay, let's start with Peter first. Okay, Peter, what is some of the big, key, crucial changes you see happening? As Dana has mentioned earlier, we could be using Zoom a lot more. Very simple thing. but what are some of the key ones that you see really happening in the very near future once we get back to work? Why don't you start with you?
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy.
Mhm.
Okay, to give a quick summary of what I would envision this will happen is adoption of technology in the past probably has been very slow. And with this, organization have no choice. It was forced into this situation. So a lot of organizations really struggled over the last 2 weeks, but many organizations who have a little bit better prepared seems to weather this through a little bit better. Now, so adoption of technology will definitely accelerate. A lot of organizations will start looking at financial planning differently, looking at the enterprise-wide, is 2-3 months buffer sufficient, cash flow will be needed, or some of the organization will start looking at leverage, which means taking excessive loans as a way to run the business. They will have to rethink about that as well. Mm-hmm. And I foresee that a lot of in the industry, like property developer, prop tech, which is a property technology, prop tech will come into a lot more. I will envision that many years from now we'll probably have robots supervising at the sites, and also changes of how the construction is being done, a lot more modular. A mode of construction will also change. If you just have the time, go and look at this company in China called Broad, B-R-O-A-D. I'll type it shortly. Broad Group in China. They construct a 57-story building in 19 days. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that I will envision to come. And last but not least, I also envision that there will be a rise of what we call social enterprise, and the role of non-government organizations will come out a lot more stronger, especially with the B40 groups really struggling to meet to get the bread on the table for the family. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the quick thing, because like it or not, whenever we talk about all this digital, the key thing is most of the people in the M40 or the top 20, they understand it, they already adopting this. But a large majority of our population is the B40, and as someone rightly mentioned earlier, they are already unskilled, they are not as technology savvy. How do we get them to go from where they are to where they need to be? Or else what we will have is a greater digital divide. And with a greater digital divide, we are going to have a very big problem. Okay, so Anthony, why don't I come back to you? I think Zenas is offline for a little while. Okay, Anthony?
Jeremy?
Yes.
So the new divide to be those natives and those who are not. So the divide is going to divide them from an opportunity for employability, an opportunity to expand their business or sustain their business, or an opportunity to create new employment. So those who are natives of the digital world, you will create a new employability, you will create a new entrepreneurship ability, you will create a new growth for yourself and your family and your society. So if you heard me say before, it's quite interesting to note that a South American company and a Malaysian company is operating one of the largest gig workers out of Malaysia. Correct? So it's very interesting. They chose as the site gig workers. So they want, and the three things they identified was, number one, readiness for Malaysians to adapt digitally, and work digitally. I think more Malaysians like to work, I think. So secondly is about ability. And third is about their flexibility. So this became the divide, an advantage to the divide that's going to happen. So if there is a request on behalf of this group, Jeremy, and to the government, would be to offer free training to every Malaysian.
Mm-hmm.
Now that gives you two things, yeah? Straight away. You can start something on your own if something happens to your career. And two, you could continue to contribute better productively to your existing companies.
Mm-hmm.
All investment as compared to if not. So that thoughts with you, Jeremy.
Okay, thank you. Dennis, right? The question here is, well, how will you do it differently? What do you think what will you think will be different when we go back to work? We have just discussed it very quickly with the other two. One of the key things we do definitely see digital coming in a lot more, and there is definitely going to be some sort of a digital divide. You being in the manufacturing side, okay, let's be honest, the whole thing is a lot of the things in manufacturing today can actually be mechanized, automated to a great extent. So what do you see? Do you see this accelerating within FNN itself because of what has happened? Kindly share your thoughts.
Well, for FNN, I think we've always been on this route to automate as much as possible, because that really removes the risk that we might have to quality issues with products, or low productivity due to absenteeism or whatnot. So that is always ongoing. Mm-hmm. But I want to address the non-manufacturing portion. Mm-hmm. I think where if any of us are in HR in this forum, one of those things that we realize is that most probably this virus attacks would be a yearly affair, right? Whoa. So lessons that we've learned from this own experience itself. I mean, we had problems getting the hand sanitizers, face masks, and so on. So I think as HR, we should help our employees by being ready with these sort of supplies on contingency basis for every year that will follow. That's one. We should put in the budget. We should also get it ready, because I mean, you've got so many variations now. You've got COVID-19, but prior to this was SARS, MERS, whatever you call it. So I think it will be it will be an annual thing. So we need to be prepared to help our employees. That's one. Two is that we talked about, the forum talked a lot about digital, and we realized that, fortunate for us that we've got a digital app. We've got an app that is on phone, and actually about 98% of employees in FNN have all downloaded that Fraserian Connect, we call it. And that allows us to have a lot of transaction that is through digital as well as communication with them. And that helped us through this period of MCO. So a lot of employees were kept up to date. They knew what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, what is their role and task during this period. So that helped HR execute. So I would say that I think other companies with HR representatives here, you should consider, going digital between you and your employees. But the third one will be our consumers. I think after this MCO experience, I think consumers will know that it's so much easier to order online and making their consumption through digital means. So I think we as organizations, whichever is available, we should also move this to digital. I mean, a lot of our F&B, if they didn't have gone digital and if they didn't have food delivery system sorted out, they would most probably be closed by now. So I think it's a wake-up call for most everyone that you must go for e-commerce. You must go for this delivery straight to the end consumer. So that's my 5 cents worth, Jeremy.
So basically, as someone, as Susie has rightly mentioned, and some of them have agreed with her, the whole entire COVID-19 situation has greatly accelerated, okay, the whole digitalized process, okay. Like it or not, it's forced onto us. And as long as MCO is in place, the longer it becomes in place, what will happen is all of us will probably figure out better new ways of working. And by the time we go back, well, key question here, will there be even an office to go back to? Now, when I mean an office, will even a physical office be something that we are looking forward to, or we may not? Because I already have certain individuals come up to me and say, hey, Jeremy, what about working offline from now onwards? After 2 weeks of doing this, I think I can handle it. Okay, give me a few more days, and I can definitely work offline to do all my work. And company, will you accept that? Okay. I mean, this is not for everybody, but definitely some people are more okay with it. I'm also not saying that everybody is capable of doing it, but definitely some people are very capable of doing it. So, Peter, why don't we go back to you? Okay, what do you think with Masing, you'll be allowing a lot of your staff to work offline if they have the ability to, and the work function allows them to?
I think with this so-called thanks to COVID-19, some form of mindset shift has happened. Prior to this, I think the management has not been quite attuned to this belief saying that people can work from home. They want to see physically you are there, you are working and you contribute the 8 hours.
Like to say, yeah,
but with this, seems like things are still moving, things are still functioning well. So in other words, if that can happen, that sort of mindset shift will start tweaking, and I would envision that this would certainly allow more continuations to some extent, or probably on a more specific function basis, and switching of that belief. And also the other part is also switching the belief that we need to empower employee, regardless of where they are. So long as you produce what you are supposed to be produced according to the timeline, it doesn't matter where you are. In fact, it's actually better that they work from somewhere that they don't consume your electricity and office space.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing an uptick in terms of, hey, I may not need to visit clients as much as I need to after this. I'll probably say Zoom call, and you'll probably say, why not?
Yeah, and the other part is actually this is all so coincident. We don't see this coming, but we have been having this Microsoft Teams for like 18 months, but the adoption is like 20%, 30%. It was very low, but in the last 2 months, we actually have ramped up to do this, and it was so coincident that this had take place, and we were like quite ready for this to happen. And now we are running trainings, multiple trainings, bite-sized training of an hour across the organizations, and that has been very productively put to use.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Devadoss, any comments on your side before I go to Anthony? Devadoss? Do you your side, whereby people say, I don't need to come to the office, I can do my whole work function at home? Not for everybody, but certain parts of the organization.
I think in special circumstances, this can happen. But I just wanted to address something that I don't think we have gotten it right yet. I don't think any organization has gotten it right, whether it be in Malaysia or locally. I read recently that there is a research done where working from home, right, over an extended period of time, I think about 20% of participants, they indicate that they do feel lonely, right? And there's quite a large percentage, about 30, maybe about 40%, that states that they are working so much more than usual that they have a trouble switching off. Yeah, you're one of them. Same here. Now, I just think that we haven't really gotten this right yet. It's only been 2 weeks. We're in MCO and organizations that have adopted working from home. I feel that there is still not a very good delegation of work process that's going on. So the senior leaders, the C-suites or the management team, right? They do have time now because they don't no longer get distracted by meetings and people discussing things with them in the office. So they're at home. They do think of a lot of ideas, and generally they're always coming up with new things that they want done. Yeah. It is the execution level, the managerial level, the execution level. These are the guys that need to take it up and then get it done, right? But I feel that there is still that gap between the manager level in executing and them doing a good job of delegating those tasks down into more bite-sized pieces for the downliners to do. So because they have the concentration of responsibility at the managerial level, I think that's the reason why 40% feel that they just can't switch off because the WhatsApp is just continuously coming from their bosses, and they need to more quicker than email respond to it. So HR's role is important here. I think we need to go back to the fundamentals of designing the work that needs to be done, and how managers need to delegate it down to their downliners. How do they manage virtual teams better? How do they keep in touch with them? Of course, with trust, but able to follow up and then follow through with that information. I think HR has got this role to play in getting these down, but from a virtual perspective. So our managers are then able to manage their work better and get the delegation of work, the spread of workload better to the other part of the organization. That's my 5 cents, Jeremy.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to Anthony, I'm just going to let everyone know. After Anthony answers the question, I'm going to allow anyone here in the group to ask any question verbally. Okay, but please identify yourself, and if you do, make sure your video is on. Okay, at least we can see who we are. If you don't keep your video on, I have the right to remove you because I like to know whom I'm talking to, and of course the panelists would like to know whom they're talking to. Why? It's because there is actually, I think this group that we have here have a lot of individuals from corporate, so we can do that. Anthony, to add on to the question that I asked earlier, okay, what I'd like you to do is also explain a little bit more about the trust factor. But you were the first one who brought up the trust factor. And it's something that is not easy because management is so used to walking around, everything they want, they call for it, and 2 minutes later it's on their table. Someone reports to them every single moment what's happening, and now they are sitting at home, right? And they may have a screen, they may not have full indicators in front of them. As Dennis said, also rightly put in, they actually have a lot more time to think. They're coming up with more stuff than ever, and there could be a gap between what ideas are, what was agreed, and execution thereafter. So can you just give us some of your thoughts on that?
So this is between the workspace and the workplace.
Yes.
Workspace and work. The trust is culture generally across Asia. You see what out of sight is out.
Yes.
Generally, yeah. I'm not specifically indicating anybody, but generally. And it's there, and it's probably transitioning over a period of time. And the element that connects is trust. The element that connects the outcome of the employee and the organization, and is now, the line is becoming very, very gray. So that's why they call it customer experience, employee experience. So both are experience. How are you bringing it together with this? And trust is that pivotal factor that brings both together. So the way it can be exhibited is open up, and also have emphasized that as well, to open up and allow individuals, employees who are working to adapt to the situation, environment which is comfortable. Now, the method and the rules of sitting with each other and following your targets and setting targets and goals or any other things, outcome, issues, BC shift. So allowing that person and the leader to work with the team is going to be important. So the team will have a bigger emphasis in order to achieve the outcome better, right? So trust is team here, trust is equivalent to leadership here. So the linkage between all the three is going to have a new definition as we move forward. And I want to say this because when we discussed about this topic, there's also another track going on where employers are not fully trusting employees. Tracking systems, right? I think all of, so tracking systems going on like Active Track. What's going to happen is every button you press, every site you see, every document you update is going. So imagine the very purpose of having that team member, part of a team and part of the organization to support your client is gone. So they're going to be working under a very, very deep alone. COVID is causing the pressure now. They will have another set of virus caused by lack of trust. Amplify the impact. I hope all the HR leaders in the call will understand, and business leaders. But if you marry these two together, HR is the bridge. Yeah? Have to call the shots with the team and make align. So employee who's at home probably have, and it's our side to make sure this connect with them carefully with the employees so that connect back to the client and ultimately is good. So trust I wanted to answer.
Okay, I think you have answered the question well on
yeah.
trust.
Yeah. One more point I wanted to add.
Yes.
Something which is now brewing is about the new way of employee. See the virus and others happening, the job and more and more businesses, in order to ensure that they survive first, take care, and I agree with it. And I agree with SMEs or any companies first so that they can support the employees. Have money for the payroll, you know what's going to happen. So they're going to do reduction of workforce, the compliance process first. So that I would ask everyone to relook at employee protection, number one. Number two is the continuity planning is going to change. Am I going to wait for another COVID to come? No more. Every company is going to have a switched on nerve center now, which is going to be working on a 20 CP. Because what is happening? So more and more companies will have their own perspective of having their own readiness, backup, business continuity, disaster recovery, everything in place so that they know how to manage this forward, including taking care of employees. And the last but not the least, the social and emotional impact on employees, employers, and society is going to be kept in mind, by us. As a group, I think HR leaders can help drive this. I talked about trust, I talked about protection, I talked about the nerve center, but I think the social and emotional intelligence is going to be very, very important. It's going to be dynamically changing period of time because every day a new announcement. Here in Malaysia, a new announcement almost every day. Now, like in every other country. So how you make sure that the social aspect and the emotional aspects with family, with colleagues, and with companies and clients are taken care. So just an approach for us to keep in mind how we keep this together as we want to keep the business going as well. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Now, very much based on what Anthony had just mentioned, I think it's time for me to launch a second poll. This is something that I wanted to ask you. I'm launching the poll now. Okay. But at the same time, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Okay. Please raise your hand so that at least you know what I mean by raising your hand, right? What you need to do is just go to the participant side and just say, "Hey, my hands are raised, and I see you," and then I will update you. Okay. Oh, for some reason, my can you hear me? For some reason, my polling is not working again. Okay, never mind. Right. So, anyone, any questions? Any questions? Any questions? I'm just gonna give you some time out if you got some questions here before I ask the next one. Okay. Right. Please. Oh, I've got okay. Anwar, I'm going to unmute you in a moment. Give me a second. Anwar.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Let's go. Right. What's your question? And can you please show us? Okay. You're on.
Sure. You can see me. Yep.
Yes.
I mean, essentially, COVID is an extension of VUCA, right? Because we are now living in these uncertain terms.
Yes.
And I think that the challenge for companies which they have not yet addressed is exactly what do my workers do? And the reason why, and I learned this 20 years ago when I worked for a boss who in every crisis, everybody had to come to the office because he had no clue on how to deal with the matter and he just wanted everybody there. And, you know, one of the issues with companies, what do you feel is the readiness of them to allow people to work from home, because the fundamental of working from home is that I trust my employee, and B, I know exactly what they're doing. And, you know, I mean, I just gave a talk on working from home, and I said to them, if you go to office for 8 hours, I guarantee you, if you work from home, you only need 4 hours. Treat it like homework. You finish your homework fast, go and play. Now, very few employers are willing to do that. So this is, as you, Anthony, you mentioned the issue of trust, right? So how do employers now bridge that trust deficit? Because they have to A, bridge the trust deficit, and B, they also have to understand what do my people do? And they don't answer that question because a lot of bosses don't have anything to do either. Because you have bosses stuck in the middle whose only job is to manage other people and collect information for their boss. Now they are going around haranguing people at work because they've got nothing to do.
Okay, right. Anwar, thank you very much. Right, gentlemen, how do we address that? How would you answer that question? Okay.
Take a shot first, gentlemen.
Okay. Yes, Anthony.
To Anwar, I think thank you for the question, Anwar, and the comment. Trust bank, trust deposit. I like the word. I think it goes both ways. And if the leader and the leadership and the organization understands clearly what's the scope and what's beyond the scope, right? So both, I would call it, how do we leverage discretionary behavior as well, right? So what is expected, floating line of work, is generally when you're working in a kind of a disengaged environment. But if you're working in a highly engaged environment, your discretionary work will go up as your level of trust is maintained. So the clarity of is well defined, I think, starts with the leaders. So that how simple and how clear they are with their goals and KPIs is mutually agreed on is something established today. And if they follow that through, wherever they are working, it doesn't matter, as long as the output, right? So number two, in terms of working on the reactive way, imagine the employee goes back and says, my boss doesn't understand. I'm working here 8 hours. Or if I work for 4 hours and I switch off, I still get the work done. That level of understanding needs to be a bit more adaptive. And that's sometime earlier I was sharing that the leadership should be able to adjust to that new way of work, because workplace and workspace is shifted. Just adjust to that environment, allow the person to be ready to rise up to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Peter, anything?
I think trust is essence of how employer-employee work, and it is ultimately very, very key that organizations need to put a lot of trust in people before we can even allow people to work from home. And the questions from or the comments from Anwar was apt, because it is no longer an option that we don't allow people to work from home moving forward, because it just go around to prove that, you know, that technology is ready, and why are we not allowing people? So that will actually in a nutshell, if we want to retain some of the brightest people, they probably can get things done in 4 hours, but yeah, they don't need to stay in the office for 8 hours. So hence they prefer to work from home, and you know, the balance of the time is just that you engage them. How you actually monitor the productivity is the other part of the work that leaders in the organizations needs to. And if you notice that with this current situation going around, you notice that a lot of middle management somewhat just felt that their role is no longer relevant at all. It's just like, you know, you basically chop off the entire layer of bureaucracy that happens in the organizations. So I'm speaking from my observation. So this is not proven. I don't know whether when we get back to work a month from now, what will be happening in the office. If you ask me, my personal opinion is I will ponder and I will look at it. You know, do I really need this job to be around? because I could get the individuals to work in teams and then, you know, report straight, and then you collect the informations and then get it done and over with. That's one way of doing things. So a lot of trust issues being, you know, keep popping up, because moving forward, a lot of people, maybe even after this webinar, some of the middle management individuals in this group will probably ponder about it as well. Say, do I really have a role after this, after end of April?
Okay.
And and it's quite scary to think about it, to be honest with you. And Anthony was very, very apt to say that, you know, trust, because from last night he was talking about trust until now. So Anthony, great job, because that is essentially what work from home will entail too. Because if you don't trust in people, then you can talk until the cows come home, nothing will happen, and the organization will continue to harp on it. I don't see this person, hence this person is not producing. I came from organizations previously where we have people, a bite size of people actually work from home, and they actually operate like a call center and pick up the calls at home. And this is dealing with the hospital admissions. And it's the life and death of the people sits on this individual who pick up the call or not picking out the call. So we actually need to educate them, getting them ready, and then we do one-to-one coaching over a period of time. And when they are emotionally and physically ready, then they actually, we kickstart that. And it has been going on for many years, really.
Many years now, huh? Okay.
Perfectly, yeah.
Don't mind me if I just cut you a little bit, because I just want to get to Zenas first, right? Zenas, right? Just a quick one, this is, I'm just adding something to it. You don't need to answer this if you don't want to, because I picked it up from Suzy. Raymond, I'll get to you in a moment. I picked it up from Suzy because she's asking the question. And Suzy Tan is a person I've known for over 20 years now. Her last position was actually very high up in Citibank, right before she came out and did consulting work. And she actually asked this question. I think when she asked this question, it's not exactly in a jest, but it's something that I was thinking also. In the last 2 weeks itself, because of all the changes that have happened, I think, like it or not, anyone in senior management would have seen certain redundancy within the workforce. Okay? Because I've been speaking to some people and they themselves tell me, yeah, there's certain redundancy. Now, this is not a trust issue, this is a redundancy issue. As Anwar himself has mentioned, there could be middle parts of management that's not really doing much except moving information from one part to the other part. Okay? Right. So, what is your take on this? Has it become more obvious in your organization? Dennis, I'm coming to you.
Yeah. Well, I want to answer that question in two parts. One is that I just want to go in parallel with what the other gentlemen are talking about in terms of trust. But I mean, trust aside, at the end of the day, I think HR personnel in this forum, eventually this will pass, and then it will be back to chasing after targets, chasing after profit. Yeah. So at the end of the day, right, all this would have been left aside, and the question is whether we meet our KPIs at the end of the year, and how do we then segregate the rewards for the people that did better as opposed to those that just met expectation versus those that didn't. So I think in this case, it's also important for us as HR practitioners at this point in time to remind everyone that even though this is under MCO and then, you know, we are working from home as opposed to those who are working on site, the frontliners, those who are working from home, you need to remind everyone that at the end of the day, it goes back to the KPIs and the goals that have been set in the beginning of your financial year. And at year end, we all have to come back to this one. Whether we remember COVID or MCO or not, right? It goes back to the discussion about your performance deliverables.
Right.
So in this case, I think it's important timing to get everyone not to get too bogged down into this MCO period, and then, you know, we've lost 1.5 months. No, it's not. This 1.5 months, in fact, when you're working from home, you are still supposed to be able to deliver all your targets by year end. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, coming back to the other second part that I wanted to answer in terms of redundancy. I think the redundancy is more starkly shown when it comes to processes. The previous processes whereby we needed physical documentations to be signed, and it goes to who based on the chart of authority. With this new way of working, at the moment, if it is already working and it can work, then those processes can be shortened, it can be simplified.
Okay.
So those people associated with those processes, right, would most probably be shown to be, yep, you can actually, we will need to retrain you to do something else because what you previously did in the earlier process, it can be digitized, it can be automated as per what we are experiencing now. I think those functions are more at risk in that sense. So I think for HR, we can start seeing what are those processes and what are those people, who are those people that's responsible for those processes, and how to start thinking about retraining them to do something else.
Okay, right, thank you. Now, Raymond, are you there, Raymond? Right, can you please unmute yourself, right? I'm going to call on Raymond, right? Raymond Devadoss, is it? Devadoss. He's actually the CCAM president and also the CEO of a contact center outsourcing company called Day3. Okay, so Raymond, please ask your question. Raymond, we can't hear you. Hello, Raymond? Are you? We cannot hear you. You are muted on my side. Are you muted on your side? No, can't. No, can't hear you. Right. Sorry, Raymond. I'll give you. Can? No?
Okay, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah,
can you hear me?
That's fine. Yeah, good, good, good. Okay, let's go.
Okay, excellent. So I think, the point I would like to make is that, today we live in a data-driven world and we start talking about work from home. I think what's most important is the type of work and the nature of work we are doing. And a lot of work that, or rather most of the work that people do which involve the access to data and private data, and that will be something very difficult and very challenging to work from home. Despite all the technologies we have today, we don't have surety and any form of guarantees that someone would just take out their handphones and capture the screen and data and start propagating that data. So I think that's still the biggest issue. So while we talk about trust, I think one of the questions that I would like to put forth to the panel is that I think it's beyond trust. It's about a new way of working. It's about developing a new governance structure altogether, a new governance framework altogether. So I'd just like to get the thoughts of the panelists in terms of what kind of governance structure is needed. Because I see that, I think we're not just going to go to WFH immediately. It's not going to happen 360 after this. There's going to be perhaps a hybrid period where, we sort of work on a hybrid model where we have half of our workforce work from home for 2 weeks and then, or for a week, and then they come to work because, as the gentleman from FNN mentioned earlier, I forget your name, I'm sorry, but you said that it's not really a full situation. People are going to be lonely. So there are a lot of other psychological aspects that needs to be looked at. So, so my question is specifically is that it needs to be a governance framework, a new governance framework altogether. Some comments from the panelists, please. Thank you.
Okay, right. Thank you. Thank you. Right, gentlemen's question here. Okay, who would like to start first? Just need to speak and I will.
You want me to go ahead first?
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Okay, good question, Raymond. And definitely trust is foundation, I call it, or that trust circle is foundation. And governance is from a business perspective, governance in place as an organization. What process, what systems that you need to do in terms of policies and how you manage things, right? I really agree with you. And we need to not just look at driven or the cybersecurity of taking work to home or work from home, and how to manage most effectively. Technology will play a part as part of the governance, that you have clear authorization, who should access, who should not, what is visible, what is not, and of course declarations, all of those, I would say ensuring that all the step-by-step approvals are required to be given before you access anything sensitive from home and so on. And it's most banking or financial or secured operations are not allowed to be working from home. That's why they're classified as essential services. But as a BPO, as a GBS industry, there is more and more of this volume of activities that needs to be moved across. So the current governance policy procedures is one part of it, but also making sure that we predict or forecast what kind of changes that we need to incorporate as part of the new governance requirements, including technology, business process, accessibility, etc., that needs to be kept in mind in line with that. I'm not very certain whether all of these are already in moving parts with companies, to be frank, because everyone in the world is going through this situation right now. Some may be ready, some may not be ready, but I think it is an angle for us to make sure that we are prepared for as part of setting up the correct governance structure for most of this work from home and any businesses that need to have sensitive data or secure data to be accessed elsewhere other than businesses.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Right, Peter, I think you are ready to say something, is it?
Yes, I just want to point out one thing, only echoing what both of the Raymond as well as Anthony just shared. Data privacy is something that most of the financial services are very concerned about, because you start snapping the pictures of the information about clients at home, and then store it somewhere as a so-called private information. This is something that is very, very worrying by the financial services. Hence, some of the things, certain roles are not still are not sort of like open it up to work from home. Yeah, and if you look at it from the different industry have different set of challenges. Manufacturing has a different set of challenges, and you can see that typical manufacturing will still see the assembly line is you need people there to manage, although IR 4.0 has been much talk about, but the adaptations of that technology has not come the way that we foresee. In fact, just to share a little bit, Masing actually has a plastic manufacturing. We were actually founded as a plastic manufacturer. So we have a plant in Port Klang and also another plant in Indonesia. So in our Port Klang branch plant, we actually had a IR 4.0 that is adopted. That is nobody actually manned the production line. We have actually run it for more than a year already. Barely needs like used to be maybe one line will require tens or dozens of people, but now you probably need one or two people only. Okay. So just to give you, so if you adopt this in the very app way, then you basically trust robot more than the human beings, I suppose.
Okay. Right, Dennis, right? Any thoughts on that? What do you see happening? Right, and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my point is that I mean, trust is a separate thing altogether. Cybersecurity and so on, it is a technical aspect to the business, and I think IT managers in any of the organization needs to be able to get the organization ready for work from home. Because when you're working from home, you are connected. Example, FNM, we are using Cartoon Networks to connect to our SAP system. But if your home PC or your work PC itself at home, you're not able to have those safeguards that you would have if you're totally on the organization's network, then you're at risk, whether it be through your mobile phone and all that. So I think IT managers, there's some work for them to be able to get secured network extended to most everyone in the organization. That is getting the foundation there for workers and employees. The trust itself, yep, that's a separate story altogether. But we need to get that capability up first, then talk about how can we get our people to work more from home.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. Good. Right. I've actually launched the polling. Any of you can see it? very much related. Anyone can see it? Okay, it's done, right? Can you please just very quickly, what's the key area I think we must focus on? We have spoken quite a lot of issues here: digital readiness, risk management, like what we call the business continuity planning, employee financial, supply chain, marketing, leadership. Right? So please vote. Please vote. What do you think is some of the things that we must look at? Okay, we must look at. And from there, we have a very clear idea of what is next. Now, if you've got any questions for the panelists, please raise your hand. Do feel free to ask, okay? Many of us here. Okay, Sam is asking a question. Sam, can you please start your video? And I'm muting you now, okay? Yeah, I'm muted. Okay, Sam?
Okay, I'm going to speak without the video because I don't actually look presentable.
Okay.
As opposed to the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development advice, I don't put makeup on before I come on Zoom.
Okay.
So I'm just going to illustrate my question with the joke that I just received. Barry receives a message from his IT department on his company IM, saying, Barry, the computer that you're using, just to let you know, we saw you looking at porn between 12:35 to 1 this afternoon. I know it's your lunchtime, so next time maybe you want to block out this portion and move your particular setting to this particular way. So which brings me to the point that what you just spoke about right now, your home computers, this brings in privacy laws as well. Company issued laptops, a company by every chance and every means can actually set up security systems to ensure that data is not stolen, data is not used, so on and so forth. But if an employee is going to use their own laptop to work from home, now that opens a different ballgame in terms of privacy laws and in terms of how this new world is going to now. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I mean, there are not only privacy laws. I mean, a lot of our employment rules will also need to be changed. I don't think, I'm not sure how well covered is working from home in terms of even our employment act per se. So thank you, right, Sam? Thank you, Sam. Right. So who would like to answer this question, gentlemen? Okay. Privacy Act, privacy issues, right? Short one, anyone? Anthony?
So I think the PDP is clearly indicating consent to individual. It's a bit gray into company. It's copyright, trademark, trust issues, other things. So PDP general consent-driven data also ensures that the type of share or exchange through any form anyone needs to be with consent, right? So that's a simple definition. But when it comes to company, I think it was a joke. I think it's a relevant joke today because anyone can access your today, be it your whatever other devices, pads, iPads that you have. But if it's your personal accessing company information, it's a different regulation and governance. So imagine if you're using not into the tech side, the technology as which is GBS associated. Industry side, we know of exchange of information happening in your private device needs to be done, right? And example where his own device. Now companies can have, I think I shared a bit earlier, tracking device that can go across irrespective of or company device. So it's important to regulate, self-manage that. So make sure that information needs to be protected.
Okay. Right, sorry, Anthony, I'm not sure whether it's you or me, but I'm hearing smackerings here and there. So I just want to take back the conversation. What I want to do here, sorry about that, Anthony. What I want to do here is just to show you end the poll and also to show you the result in a quick moment. Now, what has been surprising here is, okay, it's not coming. Okay, I can share the result now, right? I hope you can see. You all can see the result, right? The majority of the people here actually says financial well-being would be a key thing that they think they need to focus on. And I remember, Peter, while we were having a quick little get-together yesterday, you mentioned something about CFOs and CHRO needing to really sit down and have a chat, okay? Because my thing is, it's probably now the CFOs are already pulling their hair out to a certain extent because they are calculating losses and things like that. And they won't come out with a full picture till probably the end, or now it's prediction. But when the MCO is lifted, they can probably come up with something more concrete within a week. So what was our conversation on it? I just want you to elaborate a little bit more on.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jeremy. I was talking about. I'm a qualified financial planner, so I can speak a little bit about this area. Financial planning is a very essential part of our life, like our journey. But a lot of organizations, while we practice financial planning, we always talk about, individual need to do financial planning. But a lot of organizations fail to realize that this is also very essential part of this. So hence, I was actually commenting that CFO and CHRO has a new role to play where they need to look at perhaps actually have to rope in the other person as well, is the marketing or the distribution heads who knows what are the volume of the business that is they are able to churn out, and this has to be closely monitored and project, and three, all individuals has to work in collaborations to drive this, what we call just enough leverage. We don't over leverage, we don't under leverage as well, because under leverage to some organization is deems like when I'm putting money there and then sleeping but not being productive. So that's something that we need to look at, and perhaps it may boils down to in future some of the organizations or it could be a regulation in a future to come, but it will take a while. Just like banks, why the banks require a reserve is because they want the banks to be resilient to this sort of shocks. So hence financial standing tests, this is what we call stress test, needs to put in place with CFO, CHRO, and also perhaps distribution heads and CEO as well. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. Right, Anthony and Dennis, we are short of time already. It's already 4:40, and I don't want to take you guys much longer. What I'd like to do is, for those of you who would like to stay back, right, I usually allow a half an hour stay back or 20-minute stay back to just answer any questions. As long as the panelists are here. If the panelists are not here, if you want to talk among yourself, go ahead. I'm okay. So what I'd like to do is come towards the ending. Right? Since Peter, you are on, right? I'd just like to ask you, what is your recommendation for us or any advice for us when MCO is lifted, either from a perspective of the organization or from your own perspective, or for the people who are from HR here? So what is an advice that you can give to us? I'll
still go back to the three things that I actually advocate. First, look at the mindset. So organization, we need to look at the mindset, especially you take it along with what we call the culture of the organizations, because that is very, very key. Whether you are able to future-proof or not. Future-proof means, looking at, then leads to the second one, which is skill sets needed. Future-proofing, you need to start developing people ready for the future. In the events of new shocks coming, you are able to weather it through better. And the last part is get your act together, especially the two sets, if you don't have the tools, you can, kiss goodbye to the business because you are really just not ready. And at the end of the day, the anchor, I heard to champion this alongside with Anthony. You got to start trusting people better.
Right. Thank you very much. All right. Anthony, why don't we go with you?
Thanks. Thank you. Just reinforcing when employees and businesses come back together in a face-to-face manner. I think first and foremost is relook at how you can look at employee awareness and protection. And as a company, I think it's equally important because what happened now is forcing us, but what happens in the future we must be a bit more prepared for it. Yeah. The second is, as a business, how do we look at over preparing? And I think our panelists also indicated that some companies have BCP in place, and a lot of companies don't have BCP in place. So what happens in such a scenario? So if you don't have one, set up one and have a team member who's responsible, or a few team members in few departments, and please make sure because if anything happens, it needs to ensure the BCP side in a structured that gives continuity to the business. The social and emotional intelligence, how we deal with trust, how we deal with vice versa. I think it should go bottom top down as well across the board. And the important component of clients, and I think they are also left in a lurch. How our companies communicate not the same anymore. So how do we be able to bring that communication with a bit more human touch as well? Okay. Parting thoughts post. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Right, breaking up here and there. Dennis, why round it off for all of us? And tell us what is your recommendation, what's your big advice for everyone? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. My advice is that once the MCO is lifted as a...
hold on. Peter, is it correct? The PM just announced that MCO will likely go all the way to the end of April. Is that it? Okay.
It's April Fool.
Sorry. Right. Okay. Sorry, I had to do that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think as the management team, and where HR is part of the management team, right, we just need to take stock of the things that worked and the things that didn't. Those that didn't work, then how do we embed a process or embed the framework or the technology to be able to make sure that when it happens again, we are prepared. Yeah. For those things that worked, and I think a lot of it will be with this new way of working, it's shown that it can work. Then it's a question of how we go back to the fundamentals of job designs and the role designs, and how do we design tasks, how do we determine the task, how it is cascaded down and delegated across. I think those will then help you then determine, well, from this case, in order to future-proof the organization, there are certain roles and maybe certain structures that we can do without. So we'll have less emphasis on getting our people too many people and getting the people cost to be too heavy on this side. And I think over time, this will help future-proof the organization so that when these things do happen again, right, then we won't be caught unaware, and it becomes financial well-being as the key concern for all organizations. So that's how I would put it.
Right. Thank you very much. Right. Let me just sum it up by saying this. Okay. This will definitely happen again. Right. I think every one of us will know that this is probably one of the most. Hopefully, this is the biggest black swan of my life. Okay. There will not be another black swan as big as this in my life, and I don't think anyone wants to see it. But we are going to be seeing a lot more of these black swans. So for that, we better be prepared. The other thing is that I'd like to say is, all of you have given us a lot of insight. I hope everyone here has gained a lot. Please thank the panelists here for all their insights and for taking time out. And they are sharing things that's happening right on the spot now. They are also sharing their insight into what they see happening. Right. With that, can I say, give everyone, at least show your appreciation by just giving them a round of applause, even though you can't see them. Okay, giving them a round of applause. And with that, if you want to stay back, please do stay back. I'm just going to say a few words. We've got something happening on Friday. Some of the panelists have mentioned that certain people, because of the new way of working, may be stressed out. I am no doubt there are people like that. Okay, it gets to me also occasionally in a working day. So what's happening on Friday? We'll be having something a bit lighter. We have been having 3 panelists here. Ken, my partner, will be the moderator. Will be the host. We'll be talking to a occupational therapist. We will also be talking to a person who has been working from home for the last 2 to 3 years, right? How he actually designates a place in his home, and how sometimes even after 3 years, his wife still comes and disturbs him 8 times, okay? The kids as well, and how he handles that. And also, we will be having a person who is a lot into the wellness area. His name is Patrick. He's the CEO of the Future of Wellness. On that thought also, I've also been getting in touch with leading business continuity plan expert in Singapore, a close friend of mine called Henry E. Henry actually, in normal years, he hosts one of the largest conferences in Asia, whereby it's in Singapore, he gets like 2,000 to 3,000 people coming down to his conference, and all he talks about is BCP. So he has already reached out to me a few days ago and said that, yeah, he doesn't mind being on one of our conference calls and talking about what companies can do. So since we are already in this mode, myself start planning more of this to come while it's still fresh in our head. So I'll keep everyone updated on when that's happening. Right, with that, thank you very much, everyone. Right, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to allow all the panelists to say their sayonara, but if you want to stay on, you can stay on. And I will be unmuting anyone who has anything to say. With that, I'm also going to end the whole entire recording. Okay, I'm ending the recording now. Thank you very much. Right, have a nice day from ATCEN Webinar.